.ca. Now, many of the speakers already this morning have been speaking to you about the grave concerns about the expansion of euthanasia in Canada that's been going on for several years already. And I don't want to re-emphasize all those points, but I want to turn it around and say thank you to each one of you who have been active in pushing back on the government's rapid expansion, the slippery slope of euthanasia in our country. Without each of you, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we've been able to do in the last couple of years. The fact that Canadian culture is changing on this topic, that people are beginning to speak out about the issue of euthanasia, especially starting with mental illness, but moving on beyond that moving on beyond that is all thanks to so many of you for your work on that. Now, Bill C-62 has already been mentioned. It's in the Senate this week. We want to see that passed, but we also know that's only the beginning. That can't be where this ends, and we know that's not going to end because part of what you've been able to do over the last period of time, and the people that we keep bringing on board onto this issue in the next couple of years are going to start rolling back the dial on things like disability rights, or giving people with disability the right to live and to not have to go into a hospital and question whether they're going to get the care that they need. And that's thanks to each and every one of you. So let's not stop this. Let's continue on, and I'm hopeful that we've seen the bottom of this and that from the here on we'll be able to continue climbing out of the hole that this country's dug for itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I was just talking to one of the how we say security people, the people from the Hill. They're very pleased at how well we've come to here and how we're respecting all the rules. So this is good. This is a straightforward, peaceful protest to make it very clear of our position. So as I've said earlier, it's not enough. We're happy that things are being delayed, and of course things aren't over yet. The Senate hasn't yet voted on this. Remember that. And I don't know if the Senate's going to cause trouble or not. I don't know, but they're the ones who gave us euthanasia for mental illness. If you remember what happened during Bill C-7, the government presented Bill C-7, which was horrific to start with, and then when they passed it, which was terrible, it went to the Senate and they added in euthanasia for mental illness alone. They added that in, and they said it was based on the concept that the Carter decision already guaranteed euthanasia for mental illness alone, which it did not. The Carter decision did say euthanasia would be allowed for physical and psychological suffering. It did not say mental illness alone. The Carter decision also said other things. It said that we'd have to have this very, stringent system. Do you see a stringent system anywhere? No. Do you see a system that, people are being protected? No. I'm really concerned because, not only has killing become normalized, there's a whole group of physicians. Most physicians aren't like this, but there's a whole group of physicians who are really pro-killing. Let's be pretty honest. There are several physicians in Canada who have made this their job. This is what they do. They're not doing other things anymore. They're killing people. That's what they do. And so therefore access to killing is not a problem. And on top of it, sadly, they're not worried about who they're killing because they think it's that person's right. They ask for it, I'll kill them. But there's many reasons people might ask for death, and that's why it's so important with Leah's message. Because Leah was in a time where she would have wanted death. And aren't we thankful that she's here today? Because times are different. When you're in a different state of mind at times in your life, things, you're not the way you would normally be. Things happen in life. And this is we're human beings. And this is the sad reality that we're not thinking of what it means to be human and how we're affected by our whole physiology and how things happen in our lives. Sometimes we need protection. That's just the reality. But anyway, we now have a lot of homelessness in Canada, more than ever before. We don't have to discuss all the reasons because there's lots of reasons for that. That's beyond my question. But I'm concerned because of the permissiveness of euthanasia now. Are we now going to start solving our homelessness problem by, they asked for death so we could kill them? Look at the issue of disabilities. When we're talking about people with disabilities, remember, to qualify for euthanasia now, you need to have an irremediable medical condition. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I can't define it. Can you define it? I don't know. Even the doctor can't define it, okay? What does it mean to have an irremediable medical condition? Essentially what it means is that you have to have a chronic condition. Lots of people have chronic conditions. And so then they qualify for death. And then they're going through situations where they might be in poverty. So let's say their disability is such that they're getting a disability pension. And of course, rents have gone skyrocketing. And if you don't have subsidized rent, if you don't have that situation, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What are you going to be? So they're asking for death. Oh, then we killed them. Well, the crazy thing is, we didn't just save on the medical care in the future, which is sad. Because remember, follow the money. We saved on the years of the disability pension they would have received. And I'm not saying there's any savings here, because we lost in our culture a person who was part of our community. Nonetheless, the point of it is that this has gone crazy. I wrote an article recently called Euthanasia Has Gone Mad. I mean mad as in crazy, okay? This is where we're at. Just give you one other thing and then we'll be done soon. I was recently speaking in Slovenia. Now, why would Alex Schadenberg go to Slovenia? Well, because Slovenia is debating Canadian-style euthanasia. So the Slovenian government, they have a very similar government to ours. They have a liberal government which doesn't have enough seats, so they're being propped up by a socialist party that gives them enough seats to rule, right? So it's the same idea as in Canada. But they have this euthanasia bill, and it's really like almost identical to our bill, our law. So they bring me in to talk about what's going on in Canada. The world is aghast by what's going on in Canada. So maybe, sadly, all these deaths in Canada, which is a tragedy, a massive tragedy, at least maybe something good comes of it, meaning other countries won't be stupid enough to do what we're doing. And I say stupid because that's what it is. It's gone crazy. It's mad. It's nuts where we've gone. And yet somehow we think, oh, this is about choice and freedom and autonomy. It's not about choice, freedom, and autonomy when you put poison into someone's bloodstream. Who's kidding who here? Like, who's kidding who here? Then they say, oh, let me tell you something else. I know I'm going. Might as well go. No, they say, oh, but Alex, it's a peaceful death. It's a peaceful death. Well, how do they do euthanasia? How is this done? Dr. Sabin knows. They give you 3 different drugs. The first drug is a drug to put you into coma. The second drug puts you into a state of paralysis. Now, why do they do that? They do that because, obviously speaking, it becomes a peaceful death. But the reason is in the Netherlands, earlier in the euthanasia model in the Netherlands, they had a lot of bad deaths. You know, people would go into convulsions, people would be throwing up. You'd have all these terrible situations. So if you put them into coma and then you put them into a state of paralysis, well, they're not going to go into convulsions. They're not going to throw up, okay? And then the final drug, what does it do? They've always lied to people, but they're actually now telling the truth. It actually shuts down your lungs. That's what it does. So what happens is when your lungs stop moving, they fill with fluid. And then your heart stops beating because you're not breathing, right? So it takes about 5 to 6 minutes, or maybe a little bit, maybe 15, and you're dead. But it's not a death by shutting down your heart. It's a death by drowning. But they say, oh, but these look like peaceful deaths. Well, darn it, if you're in sleep, if you're in coma, and you're paralyzed, it's going to look peaceful. But it's not peaceful. Think about it. It's horrific. It's actually inhumane. If you did it to a dog, they put you in jail. It's serious. Anyway, this is where we're at in Canada today. It's crazy. So this is the first step that they're delaying. Under this government, that's actually a miracle. But nonetheless, hopefully a future government will reverse this, and hopefully we can just reverse it completely. This is crazy. Now, how do we get there? How do we get there? That's a tough question because, you know, we do have a bad Supreme Court decision. But, you know, the fact of it is that silence won't help us. And the fact that so many people have come today just by, you know, getting our message and showing up in the middle of the day, that's a victory. So thank you very much for being here.
What about us left behind when people choose this?
You know, there's been a lot of pain of families, you know, and we're actually, funny enough, we're starting this new program of bereavement for people who are left behind, because there's a lot of people who are left behind. I got an email from a woman from British Columbia whose grandfather died by euthanasia, and she was going through a lot of, you know, emotional suffering and bereavement. And this would be normal if he died of a natural death, or let's say it was a car accident or something terrible like that. But it was euthanasia. So she went to a bereavement counselor, and the bereavement counselor told her, you shouldn't be bereaving, you shouldn't be sad at all. Your grandfather chose to die. Well, that's abandonment. That's abandonment. Like, who's kidding who here? But the culture has to cover up. This is the other problem, right? So once you start killing, the culture has to justify. It has to cover up. And this is what we're experiencing right, left, and center. So now the concept of speaking out against it is becoming more difficult because people want to shut you down. Why do they want to shut you down? Oh, well, you're hurting those other people. There's so many people going through pain. Well, they are going through pain. You're right. If they weren't going through pain, they wouldn't be human. If they weren't going through pain, they wouldn't have the type of emotions that they need to be true, caring people. But the fact of it is now they have to cover up the reality. And this is the sad thing in the culture. When we got to cover up what's happening when we kill people. But the fact of it is that, with all the poverty, homelessness, these crises going on in our culture, the answer, more and more sadly, is death. And that to me is sick. And that's where we are today, sadly. And the biggest thing we can do, the most important thing you can do today, well, the law is what it is today. That's what it is today. I'm not saying it should be. I'm not saying it should continue. I'm just saying it is. The best thing you could do is you need to be the caring presence in your community. The people you know. You will know people who are going through difficult times. You don't know that they might be considering death, but you know they're going through difficult times. You need to visit them. You need to be with them. People die by loneliness. The greatest poverty of all is this abandonment, this loneliness. And this culture has more loneliness than ever before. We know it. We see it. You just have to sit on the city bus and you see it. It's sad, right? It's a reality. We need to be with others. I'm not talking about constantly because we all have our lives. I understand that. But when you know your neighbor is not doing well, visit your neighbor. This was something that was normal in a previous culture that wasn't that long ago. Think of your mothers. Think of your grandmothers, how they used to go and bring soup and go visit and do these things. It wasn't because they were they were nice people, but it was because that's the way they were knowing to be as a human being. And we've lost that. We've lost the nature of the human person. Why did we lose the nature of the human person? Because we became radical individualists. We listened to people like Justin Trudeau, and we are all our own gods. We can make our own decisions. We can do our own thing. But guess what? That's not how we are. We are interconnected. We need each other. Right? That's how we are. We need each other. And the culture is abandoned people in need. We need each other. That's what that is. And that's the challenge to all of us. It's a difficult thing because sometimes we have to go out of our own way to just be a caring person. And I'm not talking about a situation where we have to proselytize them and things like that. Like, they might be open to talking about other things, but just that caring presence makes a huge difference in someone's life. You'd be shocked when you say to someone, euthanasia is a bad idea because you wouldn't be in my life anymore. You'd be shocked at the effect of that. People actually think that their life has no meaning, no purpose. They think they have no value. They have value, they have meaning, they have purpose. So thank you very much. And there's other people here who might want to talk to us. The speakers are here. And thank you for coming out. And enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, Alex.